It says it's live, I think.
And we're live.
All right, we'll take a second. It's worse than I could have imagined.
Is this a live MIDI?
Yeah.
That's so great. Can you tell me a little something about the website you had to go to find that?
This is MIDIkaraoke's.com. So this is me saying you karaoke to. We will color eyes.
tell me that there's some kind of there's a backing vocals track that's like Final Fantasy VI.
I was hoping so, but it didn't start.
Mm.
Yeah, it was just that, Chuck E. Cheese. But the first 5 sites I went to gave me an error or wanted me to disable ad blocker before listening to their free MIDI. So,
no, the MIDI king got to get his slice.
Yeah, this is desirable. I'm not the only person in the world searching live MIDIs at this point in time. Fooling yourself, MIDI king.
I love the idea that in the MIDI instrumentation, live involves harpsichord.
Yeah,
which is what that sounded like.
The sound of angels.
Yeah. Oh,
hey.
It is Duckfeed Live for March. Hey, Gary.
Hello, watchers and listeners.
Yes, we already have a good crop of folks. This is earlier than we usually do it. This is nice.
Yeah,
full of vim and vigor, and I'm pissed off from dealing with technology issues all day.
You got the whole day to be pissed off after this.
Yeah, I know, right? I can just start working on some kind of engine that is powered by pure hatred.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like the Republican Party, am I right?
What?
I said like the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Not to get too political.
Not
to get too political.
If we could just stick to games, that would be great.
Yeah, let's not get too political, but if you ask me, you got a bunch of clowns over there.
Yeah. Both sides of the aisle.
Silly Billies.
Both sides of the toilet, am I right?
The whole thing. Just throw everything. Because I can't handle any of it.
That thing I said just made me think of a bicameral toilet.
Which is like a donkey and an elephant sitting on either sides of it, just both of them reading a newspaper, and one of them's like trade agreements and the other one says foreign policy, print, editorial cartoon.
Yeah. When you flush, it just prints out a big sheet of paper that says gas prices.
Yeah. Oh man, with the toilet paper with all the things, and it's just voters, citizens' rights and stuff like this. That would be, we did it.
And we can be syndicated, Gary.
Yeah, we unlocked it. Political cartoons are the fucking worst. They are the worst.
So every year, I start trying to read the political cartoons thread in Something Awful, just because it's fun to find things to be angry about. But then it starts negatively affecting my mental health because it becomes the primary way by which I get my news. It's kind of oh, here's this fresh hell that I find out about, and you only get the most hateful and ignorant.
Yeah. And people who are posting in that thread are probably not the least hateful or least ignorant people.
They're mostly there to make fun of the cartoonist.
Is that okay?
Yeah. It's very much it is very much in the mock thread tradition.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's good at least.
Yeah.
Something Awful can still be a force for good when the purpose is to bring something down.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's in D&D too. If it was GBS, it would be a fucking garbage pail kid.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm GBS, the garbage pail kid.
I don't know how we'd ever do it, but we should find some way to watch that movie for a show. Have you seen it? Have we talked about this?
No, I have not.
Oh, cool.
I made a flip book out of some Garbage Pail Kids cards once.
Yeah, a flip book. Was it just like a the Michael Jackson black or white video of them morphing? Or how do okay.
If you take them in order from 1 to, I think they got to 350, they actually morph slowly. No, that was just a dumb joke. But no, you're saying we should watch that live on a stream?
or something. It is because it's noteworthy. It's aggressively unpleasant.
Yeah.
Um,
Like Nothing But Trouble, aggressively unpleasant?
yes,
Okay.
that's a very good point of comparison. It's like that, except that it's like if Nothing But Trouble starred the slimy garbage twins,
Okay.
like the gigantic like pus babies that are like the scene stealers in that movie. If they were on the screen most of the time.
The physical manifestation of never being told no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and just like never being dry. Can you imagine? I've never been dry. Ugh.
It's a man what secretes like a snail.
Yeah. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Nope. Can't do it.
Mm-mm.
Won't do it. Shouldn't.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So did you watch the Apple event today?
No. I
That was
saw Reagan Kelly talking about something with syncing, and Riff saying that they made a small, like a lighter iPad.
Yes, they made a smaller iPad Pro.
Did they go back and forth between kind of smaller and bigger? Like lighter and bigger every year. Like this one's got a bigger screen, but this one's lighter, and they'll just kind of ping pong back and forth forever.
It's always lighter, it's always thinner, always at the expense of battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a point of irritation. But yeah, they all the new products they introduced were just smaller versions of things that they said were great because they were big.
Yeah. No, that's what that's why I'm making fun of them about.
Yep.
It is silly. It's $600 for the smaller version of something I paid $600 for because I thought it was big.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't, but
Right.
The Target, what's the word for it?
Careful.
Like, the Target market
Demographic.
demographic. I was going to say sucker.
No.
That's kind of gentle. Like that's not mean.
Yeah.
It's political.
No, I'm getting I'm getting one. I called
Yeah.
our business rep, but that's because my iPad is 4 years old.
Yeah.
That's time.
If you're due to like, they're all good for if you're due to replace things anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, like that's the trick. You can't compare anything they released with what came out last year. You have to compare what came out 3 years ago.
I'm sure there is the theoretical user who is just like, who does update every time they do one of these.
Yes, and those are called people who write about Apple for a living.
Those are suckers. So,
let me see here. Yeah. How about you? What's your day look like?
not much. I was playing Warcraft 3.
Oh yeah.
Got up, had some breakfast, played some Warcraft. That's about it. Cool. Enjoying myself. I'm being an undead, doing undead shit. Killing elves.
So you're still in the first half.
First half, yeah. And I put a lot of time into it. It's long, but it's still fun. Like I remember why I like this game.
Yeah.
So it is satisfying to have like a clear map, and just like this was this big overwhelming thing, and then now I've decimated it.
Yeah.
And I like that the second campaign, even the first one, you're never quite the good guy in this. Except like a little bit more in the second half, but in the first half, like even when you're a human, you're kind of a shithead, and when you're an undead, you're totally a shithead. Like it's kind of interesting the way that you play as a villain for most of the game so far.
Yeah, I mean, like after that, there's like the orcs, and then like you don't get really good until you swing in as the
the night elves, and then even then you have maybe that's in the DLC, but you have like Ilhurin or whatever, the night elf that turns evil. Like all of them have kind of a suspicious conceit of a division, so they give you an excuse to fight the same unit sometimes.
Yeah.
So like everybody has a schism, which is a little bit eye rolly, but I like how your goals are not, like, you're not altruistic for very much of this game so far.
It's good. It's kind of like in Sacrifice, where sometimes you played as Scorch or whatever his name was, Infernus.
Gorb.
Yep, you played as Gorp.
Gorp. Yeah, Gorp.
Following Boy Scouts on the trail.
Grom.
Here, sup from my bag of me.
Yeah. You mean trail mix? No.
That is my evil cousin who is
we don't call it that. It's trail mix.
Oh man. Played any of that Salt and Sanctuary yet?
Not yet, no.
Neither.
It's like I was saying, people really want me to and want us to. But I blame the company for not having a better release date, because if we had known what the release date was, I mean, not really blame them, who knows what was at work, but if we had known a release date, we could have probably fit it into the off season. But we didn't, And the other thing is, I'm like, if I play it, I'm gonna have to play it twice.
Yeah.
And but a lot of people are just like, play it anyway. And I'm like, what?
Mhm.
We can't cover it for the show. Like, we're not gonna do it instead of Dark Souls 3.
Right.
I don't know, and we're not like we already played. Not only is Shadow Tower Abyss like we already played it,
Mhm.
but two, it's great.
Yeah.
Like, it
Like it's worth talking about.
has as much to do with Souls as Assault and Sanctuary does. So if not more, so it's still worth talking about.
Mhm.
I'm really glad that like with games like I don't like chasing the new, and I feel really
Mhm.
good about that.
Yeah.
Like not sanctimonious about it. Like I don't necessarily look bad down on anybody, but I'm kind of into like this patient place that I'm in where I'm like, oh, it'll be there.
Mhm.
You know, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, it's a different rhythm, right? And
Yeah.
it sucks when there is an unspoken like responsibility.
Yeah, if we did like a more news focused thing, I can see that being a real nightmare. Like I remember Game of the Year award talk at the end of the year, and Bob Mackey had a tweet where he's like, all these Game of the Years are based on people who are trying to get work done before going on vacation
Mhm.
and have spent and played the first 8 hours of a 70-hour game. Because nobody has time to actually do that. Like if you're trying to keep up, you can't. Like that's
Right.
not actually a thing. So yeah. I'm glad we don't try to.
Yeah.
Like if we had to, if we like literally everything that popped out, if we had to stop everything and play it, like there's so much stuff in the past. We
Yeah.
have so much like there's I don't understand. Like there's things that I'm excited about that are coming out, but there's also tons of things I just like. It would also be good to play that are old.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have like a thesis for this. I'm just like thinking out loud.
Yeah, you're just freeballing it, you know.
Just freeballing it. Like
Yeah.
old stuff is good too.
Yeah.
I get like wanting to be part of a conversation,
Mhm.
but also there's value to like letting dust settle
Oh,
because
for
when
sure.
something comes out, like everybody, flips their shit.
Mhm.
And it's I don't yeah
And then 2 months later, they're going to flip their shit the other way and say
yeah
like, "Oh, this thing is, derivative. It's crap." Like, I kind of want to be on the backlash. The backlash is where I want
I
to be.
like well and that ends up making everything just kind of fine.
Yep.
Because you were like
Which
the
is
back
true. Everything is just kind of fine.
is just kind of fine. Like it's the backlash is oftentimes closer to being true than the hype thing
Mhm.
I find. And it's like all the like Game of the Year awards to Dragon Age Inquisition and shit. It's like that's not I don't know. I don't get that. And it's just like it's very pretty and big. And I like being able to avoid the pretty big shock and awe
Mhm.
like that comes.
Yeah.
So feel more comfortable in the past.
Yep. Do you want to start answering some questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Greg says, you're on record for being pretty anti-rare with the games that they developed, they ported, despite the fact that, in my humble opinion, they made some really great games for the NES and SNES, and I had a ton of fun playing GoldenEye with friends in college. Why all the rare hate? And are there any rare games that you do like?
I think that like this is a fun time to get these questions because I think that you caught both of us in a couple days of bad moods. Like, so look out, world. Um, yeah, I'm looking through now. I'm trying to find a gamography
Yeah.
to answer the second part of it.
Yeah. So I will come up and say, like, the era of rare that he is talking about is marked by an awful lot of mechanics that I just kind of don't like. The isometric stuff, like the borderline signosis levels of putting like, presentation over, kind of just styles of
Like,
gameplay that I don't really like.
mhm.
Collectathon kind of stuff, and I understand that is a stereotype about rare. As the collectathon thing, it's not always true, but
It's true often enough.
it is a useful heuristic.
Yeah,
And by the time they started kind of developing a house style from like N64 on, like Perfect Dark and GoldenEye aside, by the time they started developing that style, I aggressively don't like that style, the googly eyed cartoon, conquer kind of thing. It's not my thing. And that you can just tell by looking at a game that it is rare and it's a style I just don't care for.
yeah. I think it is a very bad aesthetic. Like I think like the aesthetically the character designs are universally kind of bad, like across the board. Like I think that Banjo and Kazooie are dumpster fires of character designs.
Yeah.
I hate them. They look like Country Jamboree characters.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't like there's no objectiveness to that though. It doesn't look cool to me.
Hmm.
You know, like where like Mario was also a silly cartoon character, but it's like it's weird.
Hmm.
Like he's an Italian guy. That's weird, and that I can handle. And those character designs feel more imaginative to me, where the rare ones always feel very generic.
Hmm.
The things you fight feel very generic too. Like here's a witch that looks like it's from like a cutout from a Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
Like everything looks like a decoration for a holiday from a dollar store.
Hmm.
Like every single thing. And then gameplay wise, like the collecting stuff I'm not super into. Like I don't, even the best 3D platformers are not my favorite thing, but like when they become about grabbing stuff, that makes it worse because I think it's a bad thing for a game to be about.
Yeah.
And then early on isometric stuff, I'm with you. And then the shooter is like, and I had fun playing GoldenEye. Like
Yeah.
it's not impossible to have fun with it. It's just was like it's not, and this is not being like a PC, super fan or anything like that, but it's just not, it's
Good
just like
dodge.
that weird, it's the console curve. Like
Yep.
where it's like, oh, this was the first time it was on console, so it gets a lot of credit.
Hmm.
Because people had consoles and they didn't have PCs, but like way cooler shooting experiences were being done on computer at the time. It's just not very like, I don't understand any reason why you would play that instead of like, like Unreal or that on like online Quake thing or
Excellent.
something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like there's just 1,000 times better version of that exact same experience that was available at the time and
Hmm.
is easily available now.
Yeah.
You know? Um
Yeah. As for rare games that I do like, Viva Pinata is a pretty fun Animal Crossing clone.
mhm.
And I actually do kind of like the Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, like the racing game where you're making your own carts and stuff.
Yeah, I Viva Pinata, I remember kind of like being okay with the mechanics and then but having the same character design thing.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of better because they're supposed to be fake.
Yeah.
But it's still like I don't think they can know how to design a character.
Hmm.
Um and then I kind of like Diddy Kong Racing
Yeah.
for Nintendo 64. That's not a bad game.
Yeah.
It's like a Mario Kart clone.
Hmm.
So it's not original and cool, but it's like it's fine.
It does cool stuff, like the boats and planes and stuff like
I
that.
always feel like it
That
doesn't
was really fun at the
control very
time.
well when it
What's
does
that?
those things. I always feel like it doesn't control very well when it does those things.
Eh,
Like I think the hover boats don't feel good and the planes are like that doesn't add much.
yeah.
Like it's kind of a novelty, but it doesn't add a whole lot.
I remember having a lot of fun with it when I was a kid. Like, would it hold up if I went back to it? Probably not. But
Yeah. I mean, it still would. I think it holds up as a Mario Kart clone, and even the flying levels still are fine. Like they don't do very much with the Z-axis stuff, if I recall, other than put some power ups in the sky.
Mhm.
But it's it still ends up like it feels like a novelty,
Yeah,
the weird like tech thing above gameplay, which is those guys.
it's a little impressive with the like from a design perspective, making a map that can hold all of them though,
Mhm.
like all the different types. I think that's kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
there's cool stuff in it.
I would never argue that there's like nobody who doesn't know what like that's they're talentless. They definitely can make a game, and some of the games are playable.
Yeah.
But they just don't feel very like noteworthy. Like they feel like, oh, like this is like doable, but not very good.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I've gone back and like visited several of them since codifying that opinion online, where people will challenge it, which is good. And gone back and played some of these, and it still doesn't like feel particularly good. Like none of them feel like broken messes, But I can't think of any rare game that doesn't that there isn't another game that does it like a bunch much better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the rare experience for me. Like you can do this without the bad character designs, you can do this with tighter gameplay and more original.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if we just kind of grew up in the wrong time and place for liking Rare. Because most of the people who I see really getting down with it are either people who grew up in Britain or
Mhm.
Europe, or they grew up kind of more firmly in the N64 era.
I think that might be the case.
Yeah. Which isn't denigrating, like, oh, if you were 2 years younger than me, you have a bad opinion. It's just could be a
Yeah.
wrong time, wrong place thing.
Star Fox Adventures is aggressively bad. Did you ever play that?
Yep.
That's an aggressively bad game.
Yeah.
Like that's really bland and terrible, and also is like takes something I like and makes it bad, like a uninteresting take on it.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to know what Star Fox does when he walks around on the planets. I don't know.
I had a friend in high school, not like an acquaintance, who actually no, he was on my academic challenge team. There we go. I'm distancing myself from this person who had their furry awakening
Okay.
to Star Fox Adventures, which okay, whatever.
Yeah.
That is your thing, and that's
The
cool.
game did its job. the like success.
But it was just so bizarre to see it happen so intensely around that
Mhm.
one particular thing. It was like over the course of a summer.
Yeah, yeah.
And a follow up to this, Eric asks, it seems like everyone is in agreement that Donkey Kong 64 is really bad. For someone not familiar with the game or blind slash forgetful to its problems, can you make your case against it?
It's just all the it's a lot of rare cliches. Like you do a lot of just like running around collecting bananas, and you're never in an interesting place doing interesting things in it. Like I think for me to like I'm not a big like the mechanical part of 3D platforming is often not going to work for me because I don't it's harder to see where you're going to land, so you have to require less precision because that's part of so there's a simplification of the levels, and when there's not like those levels fall down. So like really good 3D platformers, you take like your Mario 64, that game kind of ceases to be super fun for me when you get to the desert
Yeah.
and everything. When it starts requiring like precision, I don't think that the camera and that camera angle does very well.
Mhm.
Um, but this doesn't even have that. Like it's too simple. Like the stuff you're doing, like you're never in a good looking environment. It's all just jungle. So it's like the sea of brown, or at least my memory. Most of it is the sea of brown, and then just collecting hundreds and hundreds of bananas, and that's the game.
Yeah, and then I remember just like a bunch of like arbitrary gate checks to
Yeah.
actually get progress that were based on going back and doing stuff. And then wasn't it also the case that you would collect all of a thing and then it would make you go back through the same level and collect all of a different thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just like it's the end result of like the path they've been on since Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah.
I was just like, because Banjo Kazooie doesn't have as much of it, and then like Banjo Kazooie 2 has more,
Hmm.
and then Donkey Kong 64 is like, what if we just made you grab stuff? Like what if we can take video games and turn all of them into Pac-Man?
Yeah.
You know, um,
Yeah.
which like Pac-Man's great, but
But also there's a nice simplicity to Pac-Man.
yeah, and it's just you can see everything. You have perfect information. Like
Hmm.
the way like that keeps coming up in WAF too, where it's like if switching something to 3D uh, makes everything take a little bit longer. And part of why is because everything is just bigger.
Yep.
Like there's just more space between everything in a 3D game than there is in a 2D game.
Yeah.
So
And
it all
also
takes a long time.
by nature of a 3D camera, you're going to have incomplete information because you're facing one way. All of
Yes.
the world
Yeah.
doesn't fit.
Yeah. So all of that time you're spending turning around, which isn't very much time, but you're just doing it constantly. Looking around these corners and stuff. It just becomes this like weird hunt kind of thing as opposed to a reflex test or like kind of planning or something like that Pac-Man is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Sam Bear writes in asking, have you guys ever made a t-shirt or a postcard design that you scrapped because it was too offensive or stupid? The Duckfeed postcards have been a fun surprise when they show up, and I love the shirts that I bought from you guys as a fan of the podcast shirts in general. No, we're a
Yeah.
pretty straight pipe with the shirt designs.
Yeah, there's not like mostly. So Cole does those. That's cool. And they come out of stuff that we talk about,
Mhm.
and it just kind of whatever the most noteworthy thing I think kind of gets fast tracked to postcard T-shirt land.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's like the Senpai Restrict My P one, which would be as like close to something that's not offensive, but that we maybe wouldn't want to have our name on.
Mhm.
But there it is. So if that made it through, then I don't think there's very much else that is more like something we would want to have our name on.
Yeah. Like that one was fine sending it out to a single backer.
Yeah.
Just because like, oh, here's this thing you're never going to wear. Same thing. Do you remember the shirt loading shirt?
Oh
The,
yeah, chart loading is also. I forgot about chart loading. That would actually be. I'm
yeah,
less likely to be associated with that, or less happy to be.
yeah.
Uh,
What I would so like the plan for Senpai Restrict my P would be to turn it into Senpai Restrict my T to make it
Mhm.
about the T-shirt. TEE my T-shirt.
Okay.
Like that would be my plan if I wanted to take that joke and make it T-shirt worthy. But
It would take the teeth out of it though. It would no
yeah.
longer be a thing. So it would still. I'm fine with that just being a T-shirt no one would ever wear.
Yep.
And you don't sell things that nobody would ever wear.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't think there's anything where we've been like, that's too much that I can think of.
Yeah. No, it usually gets through. The year of the tadpole was probably a little bit close, but that was symbolic enough that is like,
Yeah.
oh, it wasn't explicitly about sperm,
Yeah.
unless you knew what it
I mean,
was.
it was, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. It doesn't. You don't know that automatically, and you probably do, but
Mhm.
you can make the argument
Yes,
that's
like you can extend. It doesn't appear to be entirely about sperm. You
yes,
can extend the benefit of the doubt to the design in a vacuum, though.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we're relatively
There's no
shameless.
shame.
Yeah, no shame. But I think I would stop at something that would actively get me in trouble for sending it through the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. David says, "Are you guys going to play Dark Souls on PS4 or PC?" Question two: if you could go back in time and tell yourself not to play Soul Reaver, would you?
Uh, PS4 and yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh, PC and no, just because I like that episode, and I think that that 6 hours or whatever of play, it was frustrating, but it got us to do something different.
yeah. I mean, there's always a silver lining to it. It just like put me in a bad mood for a long time, and finding that value, like it's over now, so it's hard to do the arithmetic
Mhm.
on what like damage is too strong of a word. But like what being slightly happier during the time that where I had that hanging over my head is something I had to do.
Mhm.
What that would have done for me in general is hard to place a value on. Not that like I'm fine. I'm so I guess like now that I'm done, yes,
Yeah.
I'm fine that I did it. But I do, like I said before, if we had done like an hour like test of the things on the poll, I would have probably rejected it.
Oh yeah.
So in that case, like literally the answer to your question is yes. Like,
Mhm.
but since it turned out that now in retrospect, having if I could trade the experience of having done it and then not have the episode, I probably wouldn't make the trade. I'd be on your side.
Yeah.
No. So you're playing Dark Souls 3 on PC?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
It
don't.
has roughly the same the same um, requirements as Scholar
Mhm.
of the First Sin. The only thing that's higher is RAM,
Oh,
and
okay.
I have enough RAM to run it smoothly.
I just kind of assumed that my computer wouldn't run it, so I got it on PS4. But
Yeah, if you could check the specs,
mhm.
check and see because it has the same graphics card
Mhm.
requirement as Scholar. The only thing
Okay,
is it requires 8 gigs of RAM as opposed to the old four.
gotcha. I might stick with PS4 because my roommates have expressed some interest in watching.
Oh, okay.
Which would be like my PS4 is in the living room and my computer's in my room. So
The communal thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't really want to. I like when I game on my PC. A lot of times I am on the exercise bike, which I don't want to do that during Dark Souls 3
Okay.
because it'll be a first blush. I want to concentrate.
Yes.
So
Makes sense. Yeah. I
mhm.
don't know. I may change my mind on it as it gets closer. But
Mhm.
yeah, that is my
Yeah,
decision right now.
definitely not trying to convince you or anything. Like I don't.
I don't know, but I mean, just like and it just if it's available on PC, I would like to have it. However, I know that it's going to go on sale like pretty much immediately on PC.
Yeah,
So,
it's not like I won't get it on PC at some point
yeah, that's the
because
thing.
there'll be some mod that I want, and then it'll eventually become like $17, and
Mhm.
I'll want to have it up here probably.
Yeah.
Like I bought. That's how I bought Dark Souls 2
Mhm.
twice. I bought Dark Souls 1
Yeah.
just once, but you know came to that late.
Yeah. And having that dependability, knowing it's actually going to run on a
Mhm.
PS4.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean that's a big thing too. Is that like PC launches are risky.
Yep.
So
And I don't want to lose that first day.
mhm.
Let's see here. This is going to be kind of a long one. Zachary writes, "This one's for Gary, but I'd love to hear anyone else's thoughts on it. Gary's Let's Plays and references to Binding of Isaac convinced me to give that game a shot, and I'm hooked. Incredible on the gameplay, but aesthetically, I'm not as sold. I don't mind the grossness, and I find the exploration of the fantasy slash nightmare world of an abused, confused child, the bodily fluids, the enemies being deformed Isaacs, the religious symbolism, etc., interesting. What makes me squirm a bit is the jokes about abuse whose only purpose seem to be pushing the envelope, i.e., edgy humor. However, I definitely understand with black comedy, it's a fine and difficult line to walk. I'm definitely not attacking your love and support of this game, and it's not your responsibility to be its defender. But as someone who intelligently speaks to the cultural and social context of games, I'm curious about your thoughts. Sorry about the length.
It's like Edmund McMillen is like a guy who I don't necessarily know if I would get along with him in real life.
Mhm.
He is he's real into that. Like he's real like I'm an instigator and I'm gonna do these things. And a lot of times they're not actually jokes, or they don't seem like jokes. They're just kind of like it does feel. I agree with you that it just feels like he's trying to kind of push an envelope. And when they're jokes, like there's like a ridiculous number of just like dumb memes references and stuff in that game too. Um, it is so I don't think he's being evil. So I don't feel bad about giving him money. I think he's being like kind of immature and I don't think it's very funny.
Mhm.
So the part of that game that like I think is meant to do that, that is meant to be kind of funny, doesn't work on me. Like I've never really thought it was funny. I do find I'm with you where I find it kind of poignant. Like the part of it that he's and if he's making these jokes as a way to process, which I think he is,
Mhm.
I'm not going to take that away from him. So I don't feel bad supporting him. I don't think he's being evil. I think he's just kind of being tasteless and not very funny. And then that all just kind of becomes like I ignore it all for the gameplay because the gameplay is really great. And it's like it's like single game I played probably the most, hours wise,
Yeah.
and it's still something I put on if I want to like mindlessly exercise or have something on TV in the background and just do something with my hands, like so I still play it like pretty frequently, well after it's done. But I don't feel like he's being evil. Um, I just think that it's just kind of like not my not my sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I don't feel bad about giving him money for that or talking about his game a lot.
Mhm.
If he were to come out as like like a super raging asshole, but I think the worst he is this like kind of like a silly nihilist. Like he's a little bit like a South Park kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad person. I think he just kind of thinks everyone is dumb, which is
Mhm.
not a perspective I like, but it's not one I think is harming the world. I mean, maybe in a grand sense, but it's not one that's my job to punish people for, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not nearly as into Isaac as you are. Like, I'm
Mhm.
nowhere near as good, but like, there are things that I can put up my blind spot for,
Mhm.
in order to enjoy recognizing that it's probably like, yeah, this might hurt somebody's feelings, but
Yeah,
I can,
there's nothing like particularly hateful in it, I
yeah,
don't think. And the stuff that you could argue is hateful, that is about religion or what have you, that's him processing this stuff. Like if you read interviews and stuff, and like the postmortem and things he did, like that's the point of the game. Like he is processing this religious upbringing he had and justifying it with his like relationship with like escapism and kind of pop culture and stuff. And that's I'm okay with somebody making a statement about that stuff.
hmm
It doesn't feel hateful to me. It feels like processing,
yeah.
I
I
guess.
feel like hateful, not hateful, probably disrespectful, and how much that matters to you is up
Totally
to you.
disrespectful is a good word for it. And he's kind of trafficking in that place where like I'm disrespectful to everything, So
Yeah, yeah,
therefore and I don't necessarily get on board with that, but it doesn't feel like it's. I mean, I'm risking sounding like a hypocrite because he's being disrespectful to something I don't care about,
hmm
and that's why it's okay with me.
yeah,
But also, there's a little bit of like it when you see it
yeah,
kind of thing. Like I wouldn't if like there was like an explicitly like homophobic power up or something like that, then I would feel bad.
yeah.
Because I that's punching down.
hmm
Organized religion doesn't feel like punching down to me.
yeah,
Maybe that's the difference. Yeah,
yeah.
like that feels like especially like it feels solidly like punching up, given how much kind of power there is and stuff like that. So I don't try not to be an asshole atheist, but it doesn't feel like it's hurting a marginalized group
Right.
to me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Zachary, for that thoughtful question.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Bob writes in, are you guys really ready for an entirely new Souls game? I can safely say that I am not, he says in parentheses. And what are your greatest hopes and fears for Dark Souls 3?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
so. I feel like I've really benefited from the blackout.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
me
Like
too. And the off season.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of breaking that stride just a little bit, doing breaking that stride by doing far more work than we otherwise would for the show.
It's a lot more work, but it's different.
Yeah.
Like the kind of like weirdly, there's more research involved in Dark Souls season stuff
Hmm.
for me, because covering like a full game, like covering Titan Souls, there's just not that much to it.
Right.
Whereas a Souls game will generate reams and reams of text, and lore pages and videos and conversations and Reddit threads and stuff like that. Like there's just more to it.
Yeah.
So that requires actually more research, I think. But good.
I was gonna say, like, with that research, there's an element of kind of always being on,
Yes.
because it very much is a conversation you have to be tapped into, and it's a conversation I'm just not a part of right now, just because I'm trying to avoid that stuff.
Mm,
And like when you see that tweet about that hot new theory, those hot new specs, the hot
yeah.
speculations, off the Vati line, you have to go and look at it, because that's a part of being informed.
Well, and it's stuff I would do anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of interesting, because this game coming back will also bring back like a part of my life entertainment wise
Mhm.
that I have. So that's kind of something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm also ready for it, specifically coming off of Bloodborne,
Yeah.
because like Bloodborne is a very different kind of game. Like I really love Bloodborne, but I really am looking forward to getting back to like, like partly getting back to just like that kind of rhythms and slower pace and everything, but also getting back to like fantasy.
Yep.
Like, because I love that shit. Like I love Kings and Dragons and stuff. Like there's no, again, it's just cool. Like Lovecraft stuff is great. Werewolves are meh. But I also want to get back to From's weird, especially playing Shadow Tower and kind of seeing Shadow Tower a bit, not so much with Shadow Tower. Like their take on Western fantasy is so neat and weird to me that just like a hot tub I want to be in. So I'm like definitely looking forward to getting back to that kind of sense of aesthetics. Swords.
Yeah.
Swords.
So greatest hopes.
Oh yeah. That like I love it if it doesn't feel shitty the way it wraps it up. I don't want them to ignore everything that came out of Dark Souls 2.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like a big thing. I was talking about it on Twitter with somebody, but like that game, and we talked about it in the Ohio talk, but like that game has my favorite player controlled difficulty, I think, of maybe any video game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really elegant and really subtle. And I would love to have that stuff be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like I want those things to exist. So my greatest hope would be that it actually tries to take the best parts of the previous games in the series, and there's no like bastard stepchilding of Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, I hope they bring the narrative in.
Yeah,
that they don't just forget it and then go off onto something else, because I still have a desire for closure.
Yeah.
So
I would like to see something that like, we have to do something with the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, even if the thing is like you literally like a definitive answer that you literally can't, would also be okay. But it needs to be kind of addressed given how much the previous games talked about that. Like,
definitely. So my greatest hope, I like the idea of what I've heard about them doing with melee combat.
Mm-hmm.
Just the idea of giving non-casters these D&D 4th edition style techniques or whatever. Bringing a little bit more, just making strength builds have a little bit more variety. Feels more just kind of more novel to me. I think that sounds pretty cool. Greatest fear, I'm afraid of the backlash. I don't, if somebody comes out and says this lacks the Miyazaki touch, like existing in this space, which like is not an option for us really, is going to be tough. Like
that's going to be annoying. Like there's going to be annoying conversations that come out of it.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a thing, and it's like it's similar, because we just did Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hill 3. It's going to be the same thing, where like you can't. I think that it is unreasonable to expect this game or Dark Souls 2 or even Bloodborne to stand up to Dark Souls 1, because that's a Silent Hill 2 level thing. But don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Like don't. I know there's going to be a lot of complaining, which makes sense for a game that has a cottage industry around it, where like people's livelihoods depend on it. But at the same time, chill the fuck out. I guess like that's I don't know. That's been the number one thing running through my head for the last 2 days about everything. Like chill the fuck out. Like this doesn't matter. Calm down.
Yeah.
But that speaks more to my mood than anything. But it will be true in the conversations surrounding this. Like I think, like have a little bit of perspective. Like cool it again. With that thing with the new games, like let this stuff settle a little bit,
Mhm.
you know, before you think piece, hyperbolic kind of thing. So
Yeah, agree. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that week.
oh yeah.
That's always fun. I like, I'm not the kind of person who will stay up until midnight and then play all night. Like I want to
Mhm.
go to sleep and then wake up at I want to set it to download, wake up at 7:30, brew a pot of coffee and sit down in my jammies and then just get
Yeah.
to work. Like that. That to me has always been a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, it's gonna be real nice.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to talking on the Slack channel about it.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking forward to getting the game beat so I can see all the stuff I missed,
Yes.
because that's a real favorite moment of mine. Just because especially when there are things that like I don't feel like that spoils it for me,
Mhm.
because there'll be little things that like kind of tug to the edge of my consciousness, and then just having those verified,
Mhm.
like it still ends up feeling neat. Like, oh my god, I knew there was something there, but that's a super good feeling.
Yeah. We need to still text each other though. Even though we have
Yeah,
the Slack, it needs to I
yeah, yeah.
like that.
And also, I don't want to, because people in the Slack will maybe beat it before I do.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, like Allison's importing it, so she will have it beat like in 3 days.
Yeah, she's posting
Uh,
pictures of her counter. Like,
yeah, so I don't want to hear about that stuff either.
mhm.
Like it's going to be a little while before I even get into the Slack, but I feel more safe texting you than I do just going onto the internet
Yep.
and just seeing things in general.
Yeah.
So that will be an internet blackout period, I think,
Yes.
for a little
But
while.
that's fine because that is worthwhile to
Yeah.
do on occasion. Yeah. Let's see here. Liam says, to follow up on the Rare talk, would you consider doing a Donkey Kong Country game for a show, either WAF or Abject Suffering? I think you guys could have really interesting insight into Donkey Kong Country 3, especially.
Like I mean, it feels a little baity. Like
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't do it for a WAF just because it would be like it feels
Yeah.
like stunt choosing. Like you can't wait until you see what the bad boys of Duckfeed have to. I don't. Who's
Same
the
thing
not
with
Robert Downey
Ninja
Jr.? Who's
Casino.
the shock talk guy?
What's that?
Morton Downey Jr.
Okay.
Like Morton. Have you ever thought about Morton Downey Jr. in the last like 20 years? Like
Who are you talking? You know who you're talking to. Of course, I've thought
yeah.
about more than
like I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to be like or Bill Maher,
Mhm.
or something like that. We're laying down the new rules on.
Every
Um,
everything you like is bad.
yeah, but like it could be like we could do it for abject stuff, but even then I feel like it would be mean, or like I would want it to not be mean spirited. I don't know.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because people do really love those, and I don't like as much as it doesn't seem like I don't want to take that away from anybody.
Hmm.
Like I just
Yeah.
think they're bad.
So there's an element of it that it would be nice to have an opportunity to corroborate our stance.
Yes.
Not that we are of a hive mind, but just to like go in and say, actually, hey, here's the reason
Yeah.
why we don't like it. But like I have a feeling that just there's the deck would be stacked against us for even coming across as talking in good faith, given
It's
how
a
far this has gone.
something that happens when you don't like something, is people will kind of challenge you with increasingly high kind of bars for not liking it.
Mhm.
Where you'll be like, I don't like this, and then they'll be like, well, have you played the fourth one?
Oh yeah.
And or have you gotten to this secret objective and stuff like that? That's when it really comes alive. But
Yeah.
there's only so much that you can reasonably expect of somebody who doesn't like a thing.
Mhm.
So like I haven't played Donkey Kong, like any of those games, in a long time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like when I was a kid. I played them when I was a kid. I revisited them in my early 20s. So I will admit, like it's been 10 years
Yeah.
since I picked up one of those games, but it's because I don't like them. It doesn't, it's not, I can't turn into a job to kind of prove that I don't, it happens a lot with TV shows where people are like, oh no, it really picks up in season 3. It's like, well, you realize you just asked me to watch 20 hours of something I don't like.
Yeah.
Like when I had a coworker who was trying to get me into Dexter and I watched the first season, I thought it was
exactly
really
what I was going to say. Dexter.
yeah. And it's like, you realize that you're asking me to do something I really don't like and keep doing it to like get to this part that you say is good. And it's like, that's just not worth the investment. I'm not criticizing the person who asked the question for asking us to do the thing. It's just, there is this thing where if you don't like something, people will continuously pull out examples of the best of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I tried it. I feel like I put in the time that I can do. There's a lot of stuff out there that I really am interested in that I'm not going to be able to do before I die.
Mhm.
You know, this feels like not like a waste, but it feels like, because it's never a waste. You always take
Yeah.
something away from even disliking something, but it just feels like not the best use of my time, you know?
And like, especially in an interpersonal relationship, when somebody is pushing you really, really hard to get to season 3 of Dexter, like
Mhm.
what happened? You know, it's like there's always the problem of what happens when you get there and you still don't like it.
Totally. And that's
Like,
a special place, and that's like a special hell to like
yeah,
recommendation that backfires, you
yeah,
know, which is why, like, and you and I both do this, I think, is you have to be careful about recommending things.
yeah.
It's not like I almost said it was an act of violence. That's too much. But it is like, you know, it's not light. You
Mhm.
know, like a good recommendation is like takes the other person into account. You know, it does not come across like an obligation,
Right.
you know, and also, and at worst, even worse than that, doesn't come across as like an ultimatum, you know.
Yeah.
And no one's ever explicitly said like, hey, like the third season of Dexter or we can't be friends. But
Mhm.
I have had some like head shakes, you know, like just like, God, you'd really love it. Like, why are you doing this? It's just like, nah, come on. Like this is way too for a show about, you know, for that show or for any piece of media. Like this is too much.
Mhm.
There's too much expectation being put on me. So that kind of thing bums me out.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Same thing with like Banjo Kazooie. Honestly, like
Mm.
that is always one that pops up for like, hey, why don't you guys just do it? Like, I just wouldn't feel comfortable at this point. You know, never say never, but like,
Oh,
A, we're really burnt out on 3D platformers right now, and B,
yeah.
it's just like I'm almost comfortable with it being an in joke at this point, or with being a
Like I
running
would,
joke.
the way that I would do it, and I keep talking about doing the Donkey Kong Country stream, which I will do at some point. Like I would do it as like a stream thing, like not on record, you
Hmm.
know, like maybe, but like that game, like uh Danielle Rando likes that more than Mario 64. I don't
Yes,
want to
I've
like get
read
into
that.
it. Like,
She
yeah,
lays out a good case for it.
it's an okay, like I think some of the things that she likes about it are things I don't like about it,
Hmm.
but that's not, you know, that's fine too, like that happens. But I don't want to like I just don't want to start like that fight. Like we joked a lot about the Fallout debate thing with like the video games hot dog guys. I'm glad that never happened.
Hmm.
Because there's just a little bit of like I don't know, like it's not mean spirited. Like I feel comfortable and I'm friends with those guys and I would
Yeah,
not hurt anybody's feelings, but at the same time it just kind of we will end up in the sea of subjectivity
yeah.
eventually. It's just how much do we wrestle before we fall in, you know?
It'd be like opinion Pokemon.
Yeah,
Like,
like training up your opinions.
yep, dislike, go.
And like I would rather have an opinion Tamagotchi. Like I have this or not time maybe not Tamagotchi, but like I'm training this. Like I feel very good about my, you know, I feel very well developed about my opinions on Fallout games. Like I know what makes a good Fallout game and I know why I think that. But I don't want to battle it against anybody.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful piece of art. Like it's just a pet. Like
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time taking care of Roars, you know, and put a lot of work into it. I don't need him to go fight other cats, you know.
Just thinking of competitive bonsai, like just putting both of them next to each other at a table and shouting, "Go,
There,
go, go!"
yeah. I watched a video, like a YouTube video last night, and the person was talking about moments of game feel, and they said something that I really like, where they're just like, "I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I just want you to know why I think this."
Yeah,
And that's like that's what we do. Like
mhm,
that's the whole point of the show, and that's
yeah,
the best thing we can hope for is just like I want to fully articulate myself,
yeah,
but it doesn't need to be in opposition to anything,
yeah.
you know.
I
So,
I know we're hanging out on this for a second, for like for a little while, but I also want to like get this across. Like if we started putting stuff on the if we started putting stuff on our calendar specifically because somebody disagreed with our offhand remarks about it. Like, okay,
mhm,
we're gonna finally take on Donkey Kong Country. Like, all of a sudden, we're the samurai who like deigns to fight the up and comer, and then all of a
mhm.
sudden, you have to fight everybody who comes at you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's like as much as like I keep our smallness in this very small pond like at the forefront of my mind all the time.
Hmm.
There's a weird power imbalance there too, where like
Yeah.
if that person like disagreed and they said something to it, you know, like I don't know, like we're doing a show and it goes out to a lot of people and stuff. It's not. you know, it wouldn't be like framing as an opposition is unfair. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Brett writes. Oh, go ahead. I'm
Real
sorry.
quick, sorry. We're really we are camping out on this, but I think that there are shows that can do that, like where they can do like there could be a podcast and there could be people who do a podcast where like we're taking down the sacred cows, you know, like one of my favorite Retronauts episode, and it was a live one, and the sound quality is awful, which is a bummer. But they did one where it was like your favorite game sucks, which is a super confrontational thing. But it was just like people from the audience were like, "This is my favorite game," and they would say like what's bad about it.
Nice.
And like I feel like they got away with it in a way that our examination wouldn't. It's not us. Like I think we could do it, but if we're gonna go level by level and just we're too thorough for that. Like it would be beating it, like breaking every bone in its body one by one, you know, from the toes up to the skull.
And we get that. Like we get people who say like, gosh, guys, you're just harping on this. It's like, yeah, it annoyed us every time it happens.
Exactly. Like, I mean, and if you say like, oh, like, cause that's what we do. Like when something is really good and happens every level, we talk about it every time it happens in the level, but our treatment, you know, doesn't lend itself to an adversarial kind of approach. It doesn't mean we always have to do good games, like obviously, but we don't want to anything that you wanted to put up because it might be kind of fun to see us take it down. Like it wouldn't be fun. It'd be like Funny Games. Like that movie where like, oh, you like violence, do you? You know, it would be like that. And again, that's not us. Like I'm not framing us in a badass way. It's just when you go level by level through something, like, you know, that's thorough.
Like, do you want your favorite thing subjected to this kind of kind of scrutiny, especially for
exhaustive
people who are already
exhausting?
What's that?
Yes, I said exhaustive / exhausting.
Yep.
So yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see here. Brett writes in asking, have you guys been watching Riff's ongoing Let's Play of Scholar of the First Sin? He's putting up one video every day, and each one goes from respawn to death. So some are 1 minute long, and others span 30 minutes. He's been stuck on Armorer Dennis in the Forest of Fallen Giants for 2+ weeks. It's been cracking me the fuck up.
Like Armorer Dentist. In this economy, everybody's got to get a second job.
Is that the no? Is that the guy who does Jaws's teeth from?
Oh yeah. There's no tooth armor. Like that's kind of I feel like that would be like that's a medieval dead end. Like you'd go in some museum and it'd be like, you know, like you'll be like, oh, here's the armpit screen.
Mouth guards are tooth armor. Come on.
I guess that's true. Yeah, but not like medieval mouth guards. Those are just for boxers.
Also grills.
Oh, grills are kind of like tooth armor.
Yeah.
I've not watched it. I see Riff post them.
Yes.
But I have not watched it.
They're funny. It's not like everyday appointment viewing. I'll go and watch a handful of them. But it is funny because, you know, I wish there was a way to hide what the upper bound of time was, because I would like to be surprised that one of those and it's hard not to like see 45 seconds out of the corner of your eye and like just wait for it to come.
Yeah, it's a super fun idea for a Let's Play though.
Yeah, I've heard, you know, hearing him talk about it on Video Games Hot Dog. It's like, man, that is a really good idea. I think he's already beaten the game, or he's close to it, even though he's still in the Forest of Fallen Giants. And all I can think of is how much work would go.
I thought about that too. Like I would like just I don't know if they're edited at all, but even if not, like that's just a lot of like uploading and and naming and stuff like that. And he's just done them all in advance. That's intense.
Yeah.
But good on him because it's a super cool idea.
Yeah. Let's see here. We already talked about not playing Salt and Sanctuary. Sorry, Brett. Brett also asked, Gary, I was in the midst of a media blackout during the entire lifespan of the Souls of Darkness Kickstarter campaign. Now that I'm back, is there a way to buy a hard copy? Also, can I go get a little smooch from Princess Peach?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you think you're getting a Princess Peach smooch, but no! Yeah, you get Gary the Mogwai. You can have a Princess Peach smooch as well. You can't buy it yet, but it's being printed now. I don't know what that means exactly because I have not seen. I've seen the patch, and I had the Pogs. The Pogs were delivered to me. I have not seen the manual or comic yet because of shipping. They all have to go out at once. So this week, my job, it's supposed to be printed though by the end of the week. So the people who are doing distribution, the Make That Thing people, should have copies of the book and will send me pictures, which is really exciting. And then I'm going to set up like the spreadsheet that gets everybody their thing. I need to figure out who paid for autographs and get those sent to me and get them, and then which of those are going on to Nick to get his signature as well. So soon you'll be able to buy a physical copy.
Yeah. And watch like Duckfeed.tv/news for that. Like I'll post something about it.
I will be obnoxious about it. So when it comes out, I will be, because I don't want to have 250 of these things sitting around forever.
No.
Yeah. So I would like to move them. Not least of which because of rent money, but also because I'll have a lot of them. I bought a bunch of them to have some to sell.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Robin asks, so we all have our interests outside of video games, but have video games ever drawn you towards new hobbies, or maybe a general interest to learn more about something, i.e. interest in a period of history or culture from a setting in a game, or learning more about mythology or religion from any JRPG ever?
Yes. I bought an electronic drum kit because of Rock Band and taught myself to play the drums. Which I'm not great at, but I can kind of do.
Yeah.
And then also learned a lot about voodoo after Gabriel Knight.
Yeah.
Like I went because I was in my high school, I played that with Derek and stuff, and we learned all these words. And then I like consulted my local library and read a book about voodoo and like read about voodoo for a little bit. Entirely due to that.
Nice. My first one is similar to yours. It is after playing Guitar Hero, I decided to learn guitar. So I got Guitar Hero in November of 2005, and then I bought my first electric guitar in December of 2005, and that is still something I try to do almost every day, and that's been very rewarding and great. And then I can't like link this to a specific thing, but kind of just a general interest, not in going to exotic places because, man, I'm a hobbit. I want to stay home. But just like an interest in like weird islands and like inhospitable lands and things like that. Like basically anything that would be a stereotypical video game setting. I love reading about it. So just kind of like, I guess, geography, if that makes any sense, or like weird castles and shit. Like I'll gravitate toward that, even down to like reading about haunted places and stuff.
I do that too, but I don't know if it's because of games. Like, cause that's a lot of that stuff came from just being a general like fantasy dork.
And that's the thing, right? Because like, who knows if I'm a fantasy dork because of games?
Yeah.
So that's why it's hard. Like I say, like I can't pin this down to a particular thing. But yeah. Let's see here. Now would be the time if you have any questions and you're not on the priority to use the Q&A widget on the old screen there to put some stuff in. We also have some comments on the Google Plus page, but we're getting toward the end of the priority questions. Thank you to all of our Patreon backers who backed at that level and threw in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see here. Jala writes in saying the network has a whole slew of jokes which have developed and been added to over time. What are your personal favorites?
And that's hard. Like oftentimes it's whatever the recent one is.
Yeah.
Because
Scorch
still
is good.
Feels exciting. Say what?
Scorch is good.
Scorch. I like Scorch. I'm way into the gates are open. Like anything with that, just because it reminds me that exists. So I like anything with D-Devil. But it's oftentimes the most recent one, just because it's like I will never get sick of Crick, but at the same time, like Crick needs some fresh injections from time to time to stay fresh. And when we come up with it, I want it to have like some kind of spin on it. I'm glad that we're not making the same, like if we were making fanfiction.gov jokes, like now that would be a problem. So whatever the recent hotness is, I think. Yeah.
Corn Sarnet was a good one for a while, just because it would pop up basically on every show with your hello.
Yeah, I still like Corn Sarnet.
Yeah, Corn Sarnet is really good. If I had to say all-time favorite, it would have to be Crick again. Me with the boring answers today, but it feels like that is like not just a watershed moment for like abject suffering, but for the network in general. And because it ticks a lot of my boxes, which is kind of creating characters and histories for like upsetting sociological or biological things. Like crick is an upsetting culture if you look at it from for more than like 5 seconds.
I like how if you put abject suffering into Google, it auto completes to crick.
Yep.
Like abject suffering crick is what Google expects you to put in there.
I would like to, people in the Slack, if you can go try that, just write abject suffering and see if that goes, because that might be a
It might be
yeah,
personal to me.
it may be an algorithm.
Okay.
But yeah, like crick for me is like emblematic. Like abject suffering was already a really fun show to do, but I think that is a definite articulation point for like the kind of humor we would pursue. And
it would be like, again, like if we ever do DuckCon and we get a bunch of money, we can fly people out. Like how amazing it would be if we just got him to come out and speak, and we just like had him do like a post report on Dudes with Attitude.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just kind of like, and there would be such a rapt audience for him, like, and they wouldn't, and he would have no idea why, and it would be amazing. Like it would just be like everyone would just be like, oh god, it's crick. Or at least I when I say everyone, it would just be me. Like it would be fine too. But it would just be like, it's crick, and he would just be like, well, when programming Dudes with Attitude, I needed to just do this very like bland thing. Like back in the day, we didn't have a lot of development time, and and just kind of going through things, and it would still be really fun. That was a fun idea.
Yeah. So that like that's the thing. It's kind of like with Buffo, right? Like if we flew Buffo out, it would be very hard. What's that?
When we fly Buffo out?
Yes, when we
like,
fly
well,
Buffo
I don't think we have to fly him out. I think he's active in Midwest. So like,
oh yeah,
I think we could just get him to bring up his clown car, like his clown muscle car, his clown Mustang.
Yep. His clown muscle car. Come on.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a very similar situation. Like the idea of Buffo is funny, but I don't have any like malice toward him. It sounds like I'm making fun of Buffo when I laugh at Buffo. But like the same thing with Crick. I actually I admire the guy because even though he didn't do a lot of work, like he was making games with his daughter and like doing kind of what he loves. And like you look at pictures of him and he seems really happy. And like he's got this website that happens to be like this vestige of a certain period of design that shares way too much detail. But like I'm not making fun of Crick.
We're not making fun of Crick because everything weird about Crick we are responsible for.
Yep.
I think you can make the argument we are kind of making fun of Buffo, but it is at the very least gentle, like because it's so weird. Mm-hmm. Like if we had Buffo come out to the thing, when we have Buffo come out to the thing, we're not going to be like, hey, stand in the middle of the circle and we're all going to dance around you and throw cans. Like you'll earn your $250 and you'll like it. It would just be like, do your show. Like this will be an entertaining show during the convention. Mm-hmm. Just do it for us.
Yeah.
And just be you. And it would just be incredible. Like it reminds me a lot of like the less exploitative like Tim and Eric stuff, where it's like I think they genuinely like those dudes.
Yeah.
But part of why they like them is because they're so bonkers. Like they're so unusual. I don't think that's necessarily bad. Yeah, like David, like appreciating David Lieberhart, like you're not like, man, this is a good song. Like you're just like, oh, this guy likes to sing about aliens, this puppet. This is so weird. Mm-hmm. And that's still not evil, and that's how I feel about Buffo too. Like, oh, he's a clown, and the whole point is he rips phone books in half. Like that's so weird. And I don't feel exploitive about that. I just think it is just I'm appreciating it for a different reason other than just like, boy is he strong. Or like, God, he's a funny clown.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, the word for what we're talking about here is irony.
Yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily evil. Like I don't necessarily think it's bad.
Yeah.
So go to hell, Jesse Thorne.
Have at me, bow tie boy.
Yeah, bow tie boy. All right, bad mustache. Let's see how this goes.
Let's see here. Tim Shue writes in saying, I got Abject Suffering podcast and then Abject Suffering Crick.
As well, it probably should be.
So it's still very much in the top recommendation. So we've done our job. Let's see here. Stephen writes in saying, you both seem to appreciate music on a bit of a deeper level. About when and where did that interest start for you?
Well, thank you. Yeah. I don't know what that means. I don't like anything without knowing why I like it. So music is no different. for me. So I think about it a lot because I think about everything I like
Mhm.
a lot. Not to be dismissive or anything. Like I like and playing music, I started thinking about it a little bit more. But also, I'm not a great musician or anything. I just have like if I'm like I like this song, I think about what it does that I like, and that makes it easy to break it down into components,
Yeah.
which then I think seems deep. But it's not like I like a straight up musicologist, would blow me out of the water with like deep
Yeah.
thinking about music. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I maybe come at it from a bit of a different angle because I think about lyrics a lot. Um and that is where a lot of my appreciation comes from. Like picture, if you will, a chubby sixth grader named Cole laying in bed reading his
Done. Deal.
with the stereo on the headboard, okay, laying on his stomach with a pillow up here, reading the liner notes to REM's Reveal
Hmm.
at 12 years old, just kind of like, what is he trying to say with this? Like
Yeah,
that.
I did that too. Like I had this was specifically with REM. Like I had I bought old VHS tapes that were their compilations of music videos, and I sat down with a notepad and wrote down what in the lyrics and what in the video could be symbols and what they could symbolize.
Yeah.
And had that. I remember doing that for "It's the End of the World as We Know It," which is just like weird skinny kid goes and trashes a shack boards in it a little bit, and that's like literally it. And I was just like, this shack has a frame with no painting in it. What could that be?
Yeah.
But I don't because like I sometimes will pay attention to lyrics as well. But it still ends up coming down to just like, man, I like that turn of phrase. Like that's very
Yeah.
evocative to me.
Mhm.
And I like there are explicit things that I like about lyrics, but
Mhm.
it's not like a poetry thing. It's more just like I get a sense of what this person's saying it and they're not being obvious. Like this is not a cliche.
Yep.
And this has like a kind of a nice internal rhyme, so it sounds like a cool turn of phrase. This is a word that I like
Yeah.
because it's an unusual word for this, but it's a really perfect word for it.
No.
Like things like that. So it's just it's that's at least for me. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but
No, no, definitely. Like lyrics and vocal melody, and a lot of that comes too from just time spent in choir and thinking about singing and doing singing on my own. Like I'm less of an instrumental guy, more of a vocals guy.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's see here. Alex writes in, please rank the following monsters:
done.
vampires, mummies, werewolves, Frankensteins, zombies, demons, ghosts, man.
So I can't remember these. Like,
Both of you must agree on the same list, so compromises may be necessary.
can you pop that list into the chat?
Oh, sure.
Okay. At first I was like, oh, you already have them in order, and then it just kept going, and now I don't know.
Really? Vampires at the top?
Well, for the out of the first like four,
Okay.
um, yeah, I would say out of the first four, maybe vampires at the top, but not okay. I'll give it a shot, and then you give it a shot, and then we'll talk about disagreement parts.
Okay.
So I'm ranking them in terms of like how cool I think they are,
Okay.
like just in general. So not like how effectively monstrous they are, because then man would get it because they're real. So so, but I'm gonna go demon, vampire, um, mm, ghost.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. Ghost, uh, Frankenstein, zombie, mummy, werewolf, man.
Okay. I'm happy that you put mummy and werewolf down there.
Yeah, those are not that exciting to me.
Yeah, I would put ghost right above man. Demon
You
is
have ghost at second lowest.
yeah, I don't like ghosts, man.
I don't like ghost stories, but like when they start getting powers and shit, like the Ravenloft D&D book for Ghost has cool, like they're like revenants and stuff that end up in that category.
Okay. So in that case, I'll put like ghosts pretty close to the middle. Like
Yeah,
I don't want ghosts getting too far away from zombies.
yeah.
And I think that Frankensteins are pretty high up there for me personally. But yeah, demons
I
and
just yeah,
go ahead.
or no, I was just gonna say Frankenstein's are really great because there's just one of him,
Right.
like it's a thing. Because otherwise, it's just a zombie.
Right. Let's see here. But yeah, demons and vampires at the top, which surprised me because like in order for demon stories to be very effective, usually they're usually couched in like Christian mythology, which I don't have like
Mhm.
really deep, you know, kind of like that doesn't have very deep set hooks in me. But like the
Think
idea of some
Berserk
power.
demons,
What's that?
like Berserk demons.
Yeah, like the
Those
powerful
are demons.
beings that don't play by
Yeah,
our rules coming from another plane. Yeah, that's
yeah.
scary.
Because yeah, like devils aren't scary, but demons are scary.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like demons kind of break over into like that is the closest thing on this list to like Lovecraftian horrors, I think.
yeah. Like Eldritch being or like other being or something that would win would
Yeah.
be at the top for me in general. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. Ghosts are really dependent. Like a ghost story, I'm not super into. I might actually put zombies above ghosts.
Yeah.
In that because like zombie, there are a lot of good zombie stories. I'm sick of fighting them in video games, but I like those movies. Like I
Yep.
like George Romero movies.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Yeah. I feel like man was put there as kind of like a canary trap to see
yeah,
how closely we would analyze this or to see how
yeah,
genuine we were being.
yeah. Because like pollution, like man's awful,
Right.
but the they're not cool. Like and like a human villain can be cool. I don't give all humans credit for like my the UPS guy does not get credit for there being what's his head like Vlad the Impaler doesn't like like that's not it doesn't translate to
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so that's we're pretty close.
Yeah, just about. I feel like we both laid out. We made revisions. You know, you cut, I chose.
Who's who's into mummies?
I don't know. Like I can see
I
being
love
like
mummies.
I can see being fascinated by the Egyptian afterlife or that
Yeah,
concept of it, but like it's just a zombie with extra clothes on.
it's a clothy zombie, and like I've oftentimes said like, what do mummies even do to you? And then they're like, oh, they lay curses. I mentioned to you, and you said that because of the movies, which I haven't seen. But like that's so vague and weird.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna get a curse, man, like give me a witch. I can get down with a witch.
Yeah. Make it a hex. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, hexes are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But mummies just I don't and they also they seem dumb. Like they're like
Uh-huh.
unintelligent undead. Like they're slow and dumb. Like if you wanted to really spice up this list, like and this is I feel pretty good about where we landed on this. But if you wanted to shake this up, you'd throw witches in there and liches in there. And see
Mm.
where those would pop in. Because
Wow,
that
that's
would
funny.
make things tricky.
Because witches like witchism seems like a more contagious phenomenon. Like
Mhm.
a witch begets more witches,
Yeah.
whereas like a lich is more intractable.
Yeah. Liches are rare. Like you just get the one. They're solitary creatures in the monster manual,
Yeah.
whereas witches travel in packs. But if we were to slot witches and liches in there, I might put liches as number one. I love a lich,
Hmm.
and then witch I would probably put at like after demons and vampires, and then in that like upper middle section, the top of the middle, I think,
Yeah.
because a witch is cool, but liches are varsity.
Yeah. Liches are definitely they're pro, I
Yeah.
would say. Um, yeah, also kind of along with that, like mummies, like the mummy in the movie The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser and Billy Zane movie The Mummy. Um did you know Billy Zane played an Arab person in that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because that's what we do.
Because it's how we do.
Yeah.
No, but like the scariest thing about him was the scarab beetles, which
Mm,
like he could just vomit these clouds of these beetles that would like burrow under your skin, and you would
okay.
see like the bump, like the cat under the bed sheet of
Into
all
that.
the bugs like crawling up under your skin. But that is not, as far as I know, a canonical mummy power.
No, no. I think like in D&D they just cast like weakness, like
Yeah.
just or like yeah, ray of enfeeblement on command and stuff like that.
I agree with their stances on Abbott and Costello though. So
With mummies,
yeah,
how do they feel about Abbott and
well, they
Costello?
just chase them.
They're against them. They're
Yeah,
against
they're again them. Yep.
them.
Yeah. So there are two notes here from the Slack chat. Alex says that we were right about man being a trap.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Crocus says zombie only escapes the bottom if you are including skeletons, IMO.
Oh man, skeletons that adds another wrinkle too. Because
Yes, it does.
Boy, that would be hard because do I like skeletons more or liches? Ooh.
So here's the thing. All he's asking is rank them. And
Yeah.
like an animate skeleton is nothing more than just a pile of rocks with motivation.
Yeah. It's just a calcium golem.
So like in terms of effectiveness, like we're not talking about favorite here, are
Yeah.
we?
Well, I thought I was just talking about cool,
Okay.
like which ones I think are cool. Because skeletons, like I love skeletons, and it's not like there's Twitter accounts where it's just like liches being idiots. Like there's skeletons. I really like that.
Yeah.
But I still might give it to liches because liches are so cool, and I love the idea of magic powers. I love the idea of having your soul inside a jar.
Yep.
Those are two things I love.
Yeah.
But no.
And I think that like liches are, vampires of wizards. So
Yes. Yeah. And like I'm comfortable with zombies being a little bit ahead of the bottom, mostly just because even though they've become something ridiculous, they were truly awesome and great in like the 70s and 80s.
yeah.
Like Day of the Dead, dog. Like that movie is watch that and then tell me zombies aren't cool
Yeah.
because that's a super cool take on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Our last priority question for right now. Ash writes, my significant other wanted to ask you both if you feel like you're getting happier as you get older.
Thank your significant other.
Yep.
I don't know. Like I feel like I think you get better as you get older for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I was way more depressed in my mid 20s than I am now, but I am still prone to fits of sadness,
Yep.
and worry and anxiety. So I think that like but some of that stuff just feels like weather. It's hard to separate that, or trying to figure out if it's related to being older or not. I definitely chill the fuck out more. So like I realize fewer things matter, and that's like a double-edged sword. That can also make me sad.
Yeah.
So I experience fewer high highs and fewer low lows, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll sometimes still just kind of like cruise around a C minus for a couple of days. You know,
That remarkably comports with my experience too here, just because like it's like running a compressor limiter on emotions. Like age is the best antidepressant in that it doesn't make you feel good all the time, it just makes you feel less. And
yeah, just in general.
yeah, for me, it makes me feel like less reactive, which is in general a better place to be. Which isn't to say I'm perfect and dealing with emotional issues and stuff like that. Like my anxiety has gotten worse as things go on, but I don't know if that's just because like when you mature, you get more things to be like rightly anxious about. But like yeah, my lows are not nearly as pronounced nor violent now as they were even when I was between the ages of like 21 and 25.
There are definitely things I gave a shit about when I was in my mid 20s that seem ridiculous now.
Yeah.
Like it was just like that really like did me in, like something would happen, and now it's like I don't like. I wish I'd go back in time and tell myself that that didn't matter.
Would you
Um,
have listened though?
huh? No, no, I would have freaked the fuck out. I would have thought I was being looped, and I would have ran. Um, the but yeah, yeah, it is definitely less. Even like I think the thing that now, the one thing that is like it is slightly optimistic about it is that I know now enough to where, and I've had a couple of moments like this in the last couple of weeks where I know to be conscious of when I'm in a good mood, and be present for that. And
Yep.
that's something I didn't know when I was younger.
Mhm.
So that will ultimately lead to more net happiness, I think.
Yeah.
Like still a lot of blahs, but more like if I'm just kind of like, you know what, this is nice, and just like sit in it for a little bit.
Mhm.
That's really valuable, and that's something I didn't do when I was younger.
That's a Kurt Vonnegut thing. Like if this
Yeah.
isn't nice, what is?
Yep.
And like
Yeah.
that is a benefit of it, being mindful or being aware of kind of where you're at, not on a minute to minute basis, because that would be,
Like a full-time job.
yeah, exactly. It'd be, that make you self-obsessed and terrible. But just the idea of like saying like, oh, you know what? Like beyond all reason, I feel kind of okay right now. The wind is at my back. I can start embarking upon a certain number of things and kind of get more output for my input, right?
Mhm.
Like I can just be like if I recognize it and try and freeze this moment in time, I'm less likely to let something small get to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in some ways, looking up.
Yeah.
But also like again, those like cruising at C- for a couple of days happens for sure.
Yeah.
And there's no like it's just like nothing's making me feel good, so I don't have that opportunity to stew in that or to be present for it. You know.
Yep. I mean, just the weather. That is the way I conceptualize it. Like
Yeah.
a fit of anxiety or a fit of, just anhedonia. Just like, yeah, that's going to pass like a cloud. And
Yeah.
I didn't have that knowledge, maybe just because I didn't see enough of the pattern, all those years
Yeah.
ago, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. There's some follow up here from the Q&A widget from David, who wrote, Google returned abject suffering, then abject suffering crick, then WAF,
Okay.
and then Gary Butterfield, and then R Zone. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Google.
I'm happy to be associated with the R Zone.
With Gary Butterfield. Oh.
Yeah, no, I know where I said Google.
No, you don't say that. I was just joking. That's not my point.
No, I'm just.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Novi writes, have you tried Battlefleet Gothic Armada? And if so, what is your opinion?
No.
No.
I'm going to look at it though right now and see what it is.
That's what I've just done as well. It appears to be like a steampunk free space.
Yeah, it is. It is an RTS adaptation of Game Workshop's board game set in the Warhammer 40k. I've done almost nothing with the Warhammer 40k universe.
Yeah, I feel nothing.
It's a huge blind spot for me.
Yeah,
it's not because I don't think I would dig it. Like I think that there are cool things about it. And then the game Hordes, which is the War Machine Hordes, which is I think, or no, that's different than Warhammer. Yeah, so I don't know anything about Warhammer really.
Mm-hmm.
War Machine I know a little bit about, and I played a lot of Iron Kingdoms, which is the role-playing game that's adapted from it.
Yep.
The tabletop role-playing game, but I don't know this game at all.
Yeah. I was about to say it's inexpensive, but no, it is not.
Like
it appears to be it appears to be a kind of game that requires more attention than I can readily give to a non-assignment.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I can't do an endless game. Like an endless game is a big stretch for me. It's why there are lots of things I think I would like. Like I think I would probably get into Hearthstone if I tried it, but I don't want to get into an endless game.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Let's see here. And then we have some comments on the Google Plus page. I'm getting like email alerts from people writing something somewhere in Google Plus, but like I've got nothing.
Yeah, I don't know how this is all
in terms of seeing it and looking at the emails. It appears that it is a bunch of like off the cuff responses to the things we're saying. If you would like us to respond to something, use the next time, because we're nearing the end, use the Q&A widget or respond in the priority thing. Just because like it's hard to catch those as they go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Do you feel like talking about BioShock Infinite, or do we want to save that?
What about it?
So Eric writes, I'd like to hear Gary's full opinion on BioShock Infinite. I feel like I've just gotten bits and pieces.
We did a bonus level about it.
Yes.
Which is good if you want to hear like a podcast about it, because I talk about it on there, and it's not that's not all like just me, like everybody's on that. And I was more down on it than other people, I think.
Yep.
But mostly I think that it's kind of a cowardly game. Like its perspective is, the first half of it, where it's kind of catfishing you with what it actually wants to do, is South Parky and the Ken Levine golden mean, which I'm not super into. Like everybody is wrong, and mechanically, it's like took away everything I like about BioShock. Like BioShock, early on, even has a lot of these like different like skill, like there's like this research thing, there's this whole like independent systems you're playing against each other. The most like thrilling moments in BioShock are setting traps and finding something way stronger than you with where you shouldn't be able to do it. BioShock 2 doubled down on that, and it was really great. BioShock Infinite removed it from the board entirely, and when you the boss encounters in that game are awful. Every one of them is a terrible bullet sponge. You're not equipped to do anything neat with it. Like imagine like the cool times where you like trick two splicers into fighting each other. One of them hits a big daddy with a stray bullet, wanders into a missile launcher that you've hacked that shoots missiles at it. And then, you send both splicers against it while you pepper it with bolts from across the room. Like that's a really cool emergent gameplay situation that is possible in the Bioshock 1 and 2 space that is impossible in Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah.
Bioshock Infinite's not about that. It's about this weird idea that like there's always a lighthouse, there's always a girl, which is like a cool thing in the end. Like I'm okay with that, but it wasn't. The more time I get away from it, the more I realize the game isn't actually about that.
Right.
The time you spend is not about that. The time you spend is fighting infinite number of cops that you're murdering for no reason, in cold blood, and this story about how maybe religious despots are just as bad as the people who resist them, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to sound like I'm saying, give us the old lighting system back or something like that. But did you read about like what Bioshock Infinite was before they kind of compromised it?
A little bit. Like I know there's a lot of different versions though. So even if I had read about it,
yeah,
it could have been different than what you're talking about.
The one that is more explicitly like you are coming to Columbia after it has fallen, not taking an active hand in its fall. To where like you're dealing with like a different version of splicers. The Songbird is more of a nemesis type figure, relies more on tonics as like body modifications and stuff like that. This is specifically the version that was like written about in a feature in Game Informer, and like that was very much the game that I wanted to play. And like the promise that I got from that opening hour of Bioshock Infinite, like it went against that, but like it just didn't become something very cool.
Yeah, it doesn't add much. Like there are individual moments of kind of, because the thing Bioshock, you explore these worlds and you're seeing these cultures, and it's it's after the fact, so you have this element of archaeology that's really neat. You would think that exploring the world while it's going on would give you more of that, but somehow they do way less of it. Like you have that first hour, and then you have a huge section that I barely remember. A little bit of like racism is bad. And then the next part it came alive for me at all was when there's like a cutscene when you get to Finkton. Then I was like, oh, these people are bidding for time of like how quickly they can do these jobs. Like that's a cool idea. And then a bunch of shooting, and then just like the story that Ken Levine actually wanted to tell. It just disappears for this whole, and it's like none of it makes sense. There's so many holes in it, and I'm not that guy. Like I can unfocus my eyes to get a theme across, but the theming is so confused that like I can't help but focus on like if you start having nosebleeds and headaches because a version of you is dead in another world.
Why are you always having nosebleeds?
Why isn't everyone having that? Like, do you mean to say every single other alternate universe Gary Butterfield is alive? That's crazy. Like I've done a lot of like I ate a double down once. Like it's not a like there's I make dangerous life decisions sometimes. I went to work drunk once. Like it is I make dangerous life decisions. I should not. Every version of me shouldn't be alive. Like none of it makes sense. And he didn't care, but he's just like he's hand waving so much at the end to get to what? Like the idea that like that maybe one decision makes or breaks a person, but like if you want that idea, like Torment does that a quadrillion times better. Like
a quadrillion.
It is so much better of an exploration of that idea. That like it just infinite.
Let's end on a somewhat up note here. Eric writes in, the attic stooge bit from this week's Abject Suffering was pure gold. So is Crick 2000. Where do you guys come up with this stuff? By being goofballs and by listening to each other.
I get most of my ideas from pot, acid, LSD, mushrooms. That's where the source of my creativity.
Starts and ends really.
It's just goofing. It's like you dig around with your friends, you make jokes.
Yep, we just happen to have a microphone.
Yep,
nothing special about it. We just have themes. Again, going back to why Crick is fascinating to me. Like talking about horrifying and tragic biological monstrosities will always be fun.
I think it's themes, and then the other part of it is that we have time to fill. So there's a little bit of like, well, this might go somewhere, so let's do it because we're on stage for a half hour. And we can't have dead air.
But that can't be all of it because like I'm in the process of editing the Silent Hill 3 episode, and like we take a good 3 minutes to hypothesize about whether or not Rusty Blade was Blaze's or Scorch's rather mentor.
Oh yeah. That's not all of it, but that's just because it came from like Abject Suffering. I think there's only one time I can remember where we literally ran out of things to talk about in Abject Suffering and had to plan for what to do. I don't remember what episode it's in, but it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But like sometimes it is, quite literally we have time to kill.
Yeah.
We
We usually like we have something in our back pocket. Like we still haven't talked about Game Bus, Gary.
Yeah. Like Super Game Bus is on the list, or like we'll go do something, like go do an experience or something, and then just that has not, not come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh. Yeah. Listening and being goofballs, having the time and having themes that we both enjoy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We have hit the 90 minutes. Speaking of time to fill, we super appreciate all of the Patreon backers who got into the priority queue and everybody who participated in the comments and on the Q&A. We'll be back at the end of next month to answer all of your Dark Souls 3 questions, inevitably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll be. We will have it done. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys can Google Super Game Bus. Like we will talk about it at some point. So people are Crow's asking in the Slack what Super Game Bus is. Google it. That's also something if we do DuckCon, I would love to get a Super Game Bus. I think that would be very funny. So thanks everybody, and we will see you guys in a month.
Yeah,
I think, and we don't do admin on the show.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
So, thanks, guys.
If you only caught a portion of this, either catch it on YouTube or go to Duckfeed.tv and find the presents feed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think before the next episode this comes out, other stuff will happen on that channel.
Yes.
Preview. Yes. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.